Hi out there. Welcome back to our Land Bulletin series. I'm Haley Murr, and I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Development here at Murr Ranch Group. For those of you who are first joining, this is the Land Bulletin, where every other week we discuss the ranch and sporting property market, buying and selling advice, the latest best stewardship practices, as well as topics currently impacting landowners. Murr Ranch Group is a full-service ranch real estate brokerage and consulting company focusing on legacy ranches and sporting and conservation properties around the West. The snow levels hit an all-time record across the state this spring, and the spring remained cold as a result. The snow runoff came later than usual, and the river levels were higher than in years past. We have focused a lot on how this runoff has affected a few different aspects of ranching and wildlife on a couple of our other podcasts. But one thing we haven't looked at is how did this change affect fly fishing out west? One of the most important parts of our Rolodex of ranches are fly fishing properties. So we felt like this was a really important topic to go over. Helping me out today is Erin Crider. Erin is an outfitter and also the owner and founder of Uncharted Outdoors Women. Uncharted Outdoors Women is an organization of like-minded women whose primary goal is to create a community for those who identify as women to recreate, learn outdoor skills, and become better conservationists. So without further ado, sounds like an organization I want to be a part of. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, Haley. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us and agreeing to be a part of our show today. I'm so excited to kind of hear about your background, about your organization, and about what landowners can do to prepare for runoffs like this, because it's been insane.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, would love to know kind of your background and what brought you to Colorado and what drove you to start Uncharted Outdoors Women.
Sure. So I grew up in Missouri, near Springfield, and got my animal science degree from the University of Missouri in the agriculture department. And so I've always kind of been outside, been around hunting and fishing. My grandmother took care of me every summer, and I would split time between some small family-owned ranches out there in Missouri. And she got me into fishing just for bass, bluegill, crappie, catfish. And my husband and I met in college, and we moved to Colorado in 2014, and we live in the mountains. And he doesn't hunt and fish, but I'm obviously obsessed since I own an outfitter. And Uncharted Outdoors Women started 2 years ago. We just had our second anniversary, and I had originally started it to teach women's fly fishing classes because they didn't really exist here.
Mm-hmm.
And then like really good ones. I had been doing them for free through nonprofits, but they weren't like I didn't have everything I needed, and I didn't have the resources, I guess you could say. And then I was going to take women duck hunting. I think I might be the only female waterfowl guide in the West. And
I thought
Uncharted.
you were going to say world, and I was going to believe it.
No, there's a few out there. Definitely in the West. And then Uncharted Outdoors Women is an outfitter in multiple states and it's the only one that's woman owned and all woman guided in North America. And we are growing.
That's so cool to hear. I love that. And so you guys, do you primarily do work in Colorado? Are you all over the Rocky Mountain region? What's kind of your reach?
We're based here in Colorado, specifically a whole lot out of Gunnison. That's where a lot of our permits are for big game. And then we have a lot of different permits on public water around Colorado. We're also an outfitter in Wyoming, and then in Oregon, and then we're in Wyoming. We do some small game stuff and bird hunting in Montana.
Oh, amazing. And how does that work with landowners? So do you kind of lease land from them or lease it from, public entities? How does that work for those of you who are listening?
Yeah. So we mainly teach classes. So I've been just doing some day leases with some landowners that I know. And then we use a lot of public water, obviously. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, one of the reasons we had you on here is your connection with Maggie Hanna. She speaks very highly of you and your knowledge of kind of rivers and the streams that are out there. And like I said in my introduction, there's been a huge change in water levels and rivers, especially this spring. And it delayed a lot of things that usually would happen like early summer, those kinds of things. So I'd love kind of just to dig into what was different this year than years past for fly fishing.
Sure. I'll tell you, it was definitely cold this past winter. Um, being the only female waterfowl guide, I was freezing out there for sure, and I'm not in my young 20s anymore, so it was chilly. But I was out there watching the snow stack up, and stack up, and I knew that if it got hot really quick, which in some places it did in the Rockies, like in Montana, the snow was not going to stick around.
Mhm.
Um, in Montana, it seemed like they were just out of snow, and the girls up there were panicked of what the season was going to look like. The water got hot really quick, and the fish were just not. They were not about the fly fishing. Here in Colorado, runoff lasted. It seemed like forever because we had so much snow, and it didn't really heat up till later. It
Mhm.
stayed cold. Um, and then when it did heat up, everything melted very quickly. A lot of a lot of streams were absolutely flooded. Down in Gunnison at Blue Mesa, they had been obviously in a drought for a very long time. Like in the past 10 years, Blue Mesa has been at record low levels. Now, I drove out there a month ago. It was full,
Wow.
completely full with those giant lake trout. So that's pretty cool, and it's great for all landowners around us, so they can keep doing what they do to feed us.
Mhm. That's amazing that, like, places that have been a drought for as long as they have are still seeing strong flows even later in the summer.
Hmm.
We were just down at Decker's. It was my friend's birthday, and we went fly fishing, and I was like, "I don't think it's, it's not gonna be the levels we want. It's not gonna be the fishing we want." And this was, like, in July. And then when we went down there, it was like, "Oh my god, this is what it should be at the beginning of the summer."
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of water in the South Platte Basin.
Mhm.
We're very fortunate because all of that water is what Denver survives on. Um, and we need that because the Colorado's running low, and then we have to pump it back from the western slope back over to the eastern slope because the population is mainly here.
Yeah, so keep it going. The South Platte River Basin. And I know you've been doing this for a really long time. Have you ever seen anything like this before, um, out west or in different states?
I personally have not,
Mhm.
maybe because I wasn't out in it. Previous to this, I was a financial advisor based out of Denver for a Manhattan firm. So I did a lot of business strategy with landowners and women of wealth. And now that I'm actually in it and not just driving to Denver in it or flying out to New York in it, things are very different.
Yeah.
um, it was really cold at 5 a.m. on some of those weekends when I was taking girls out to learn how to duck hunt for the first time. But this summer it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I don't live in Denver, so I didn't really feel any of the 90-degree days. Right now, up at my house, I'm at 9,000 feet and it's in the high 50s. It's beautiful. The aspens are golden. And I think that they're going to hang around a little bit longer. We do need some rain. Uh, but it was great to like completely miss the fire season.
Mhm.
We, Canada unfortunately didn't miss that, but um, we had enough water and it rained. It seemed like every day. And we do mushroom hunts too, and
Oh, wow.
medicinal plants and things like that. And the mushroom hunting was all pretty late.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't warm enough for them to show themselves. So
Wow.
definitely an interesting year, and we're expecting the same next year.
I need a full Rolodex of everything you guys offer because it really means it's really neat what you guys are doing. So I know we talked about Blue Mesa, we talked about the South Platte River Basin. Were there any other areas that were most affected from a fly fishing perspective by the snowpack and in Colorado specifically?
In Colorado specifically, everything seemed pretty good. I know
Mhm.
it's a little dry out east, but there's not a lot of fly fishing out there. It seemed like the walleye and bass fishing just seemed pretty good
Mhm.
all year. So I'm looking forward to a little bit chillier year next year. Maybe not so much in the winter. I could use, not negative
Yeah, a
temperatures
little bit
would
of
be great.
respite from that, especially at
Yeah.
9,000 feet. You need like a little bit of a a break every once in a while.
Yes. Let
Um,
me dig out for at least a day.
Perfect. And then I guess, we kind of glanced on it a little bit. Everyone keeps hearing the news that last winter might have been really tough, but next winter is also going to be a ton of snow. And we were just chatting. My ACL is making me wish that the winter was going to be really crappy this winter. But what are we expecting? What are the experts saying about snowfall and snowpack next year?
So I am definitely a believer in the Farmer's Almanac, and as soon as it comes out, I get it. So I think we're just expecting just like we were. In spring is really when we get the bulk of our snow, and with those upslope storms, that's when it really piles on. Like we can get 4 feet overnight in spring, but it's like soft, powdery snow, and that does melt quickly. But we don't get any of the icy stuff like at the lower elevations, so that's good.
Mhm.
I'm expecting the wind to be just as gnarly as it was, and that's honestly more of my concern is the wind because I don't mind driving in a foot or two of snow. As long as there's not ice under it, it's not a big deal.
Mhm.
Um, but the wind and the snowbanks that it creates, it's hard to get up and down, gravel roads in the canyon that I live in uh,
Mhm.
when it's super windy. And
Yeah.
I love to fly fish in spring. It is my favorite time to go fly fishing. I don't know why, because I just got out of waders, from the duck hunting season, and then go immediately back into a different kind of waders to go fly fishing. But I love fly fishing, like the Eagle River in spring. It's just a free stone. The rainbows are big and happy and healthy. There's plenty of bug life out there, and they're just hungry. And I love hungry fish at like noon.
Mhm. Yeah. And with that, I mean, with the bugs and like you were saying, the hatching and everything, did all of that was that kind of different this year too, or was it
It was slower.
okay?
I felt like I really enjoy hitting the salmon fly hatch on the Colorado River. Um, but I feel like I completely missed it this year because the river was so high because the temperatures had just spiked around that um, late June into July month,
Mhm.
and that's when the salmon flies come up. So completely missed that. The water was just running too fast. It's too dangerous to be out there, and
Mhm.
so I just missed it. And that was one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite hatches to catch.
Yeah. Well, maybe this year if it's the same, you'll kind of know, but I guess if the rivers are a little dangerous, you don't want to be out there even if it is the
Yeah,
prime time.
just stick to the lakes and reservoirs.
And did you have to adjust? I know you run an organization. Did you have to adjust some of these like trips that were planned, months in advance because of all of this?
We did. When it got really hot, we had to move some things to later in the year because we like
Mhm.
to teach women's fly fishing classes over a weekend. So we tested out some fly fishing retreats that were budget friendly
Mhm.
versus, going to Alaska or Mexico for thousands of dollars. Like we want to actually teach the women how to fly fish so they can go and do it themselves. Not only do they want to know how to do it themselves rather than hiring a guide every year, but it's usually put on them to teach their kids how to fly fish as well.
Mhm.
So, what we do as an organization is create this confidence and community with women because that keeps them buying their fishing license every year. And that's what all of the states want. They want that revenue, and all that money from each of the fishing licenses goes back into our public lands, back into conservation. It pays the game wardens, it keeps our parks open. So that's kind of our mission when it comes down to it. And there's tons of free kids fishing classes, right? Like I felt like every weekend there's a free learn how to fish, bring your kids out, learn how to fish. But then it's kind of dropped on mom to carve out time, buy the gear, know how to do it herself, and there's not a class for her to take to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of moms come out like, okay, now my kid's super into fishing and I have no idea what to do. Or, and with kids, they've got low patience. So if they're not successful, they're out of there. So we
Right.
had a lot of moms like, where do the fish live? I understand in the water, but just educating them on the fish are pointed upstream is
Mhm.
great. Or you don't have to be in the middle of the lake and to catch a fish. You can be right on the bank because that's where they like to hang out and that's where the grasshoppers are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, we had to adjust a lot of things due to the weather, but it all worked out. We've
Okay.
got great clients. Like they are
Yeah.
just they've seen worse days. How about
It's like I'm outside. I don't care that it was a couple weeks later. Like I'm
yeah,
still where I need to be.
their
Um,
kids are with their partner. They've got a glass of wine in hand. They didn't have to get up at 5:30 to go fishing. Yep.
yeah, that's huge. That's my kind of fishing, I think.
Yes, we know.
Um, and I know you mentioned, there's public fly fishing, and then we as a ranch brokerage, we have a lot of private landowners, and I know this year in particular, a lot of their streams and their banks were affected pretty heavily by the runoff.
Mhm.
And like you said, a lot of the public lands are um, financed by some of these fishing licenses, but sometimes private landowners have to do a lot and pay for a lot to make sure that their
Mhm.
habitat is what it needs to be for these fish. So, as someone who fishes on every stretch of river, what do you recommend for ranchers to improve their banks, and what can they be prepared for a winter like we had last winter if we're going to have it again?
Sure. So when I worked with landowners, 100% of the time, what I saw is their cattle are just running through the river, right?
Right.
Because they don't want to put up barbed wire, which is fine. That blocks the elk and the deer for coming through. But if they can section off like a portion of the river that the cattle can't get to, that is huge. The
Okay.
cattle, when they cross the river or they're going out there to drink it, um, they're stomping down that bank, and the willows can't grow. They're eating the willows, and the willows really protect the fish and keep that cut bank in place. Plus, wildlife love it, like moose. Like
Mhm.
anytime I see willows, I'm thinking moose. But the willows really keep the water cold, which is what trout in the Rockies really need. And they keep that bank in place. The other thing that they can do is any like telephone poles that have been taken down, or big panels that have been taken down. You can create an embankment. If you lay some of those across the river, and then rocks will simply pile up on there, and you'll create a riffle that fish are just going to live in, like they want to live there.
Wow.
Compared to just like a flat river with no structure, no rocks. Fish live behind rocks, like they live behind slow moving water, and they'll move out to the faster water to eat their food, but then they come back behind that rock. So creating that structure in your river is creating a great trout fishery and conserving what you do have.
That's amazing. Are there any like good practices about, other things they need to be doing on the riverbanks, or do they need to be working with kind of, we owned a ranch at one point and we worked with CSU to help with like the hatching and the bugs and those kinds of things. Is there anyone they can be working with that maybe can help with stream restoration
You know,
beyond some of that?
I've been a little bit out of the loop recently, but when I was doing some planning for some landowners, there was a ton of grant money, especially for female landowners and new ranchers that were women. There was a ton of grant money, like nonprofits and conservation organizations want to work with you. Is from what I can see. Now, have I ever
Oh, yeah.
gotten a grant application through for a landowner for conservation efforts? No, but there is, I mean, you have to hire a grant writer, right?
Mhm.
Um, and there's, from what I understand, just a ton of money for landowners out there to help improve their waterfowl habitat and things like that.
Amazing. Yeah, waterfowl is a great example. I mean, we've been talking about fly fishing, but it's all kind of connected. Like if your
Mhm.
stream is healthy and you're taking care of it, there's so many other components that can like drive wildlife and habitat to your property. Um,
Definitely.
and with that, I mean, all of these things, it's undoubtedly probably adds value to your ranch. So as much money as it might be to have a grant writer or these things, at the end of the day, it adds quite a bit of value.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado's holds 1% water. Like its surface area holds 1% water. So if you have water on your property and you own the water rights, take care of it. Those
Yeah.
are very special. I will tell you, Wall Street is trying to buy all of that and control it.
Mhm.
So hang on to it, landowners. You guys are the best conservationists out there. You've seen the land change century after century. So hang on to it and protect it.
Mhm. It's interesting. I love having like your background of the finance with the outdoorsman. Like it's a very cool place where those two things meet. I just I think it's really neat. um, and in your opinion, without giving away too much of like your secret sauce, um, after last winter and seeing how the summer was this year, what are some of the areas of Colorado or maybe the West that you're excited about for fishing next year, maybe in the future? I know like rivers are changing day by day, but
Mhm.
you probably have some good insight.
Yeah, I mean, I like to explore and adventure quite a bit,
Mhm,
so I don't like to fish like the normal, highly populated areas. I'm kinda, I don't know, bored with it. And fish are hungry. They'll eat the same thing in the same watershed, right?
mhm,
So this year I really plan to focus around the Gunnison area because there's so much water and there's so many tributaries that run into Blue Mesa, for example. There's little tiny creeks that hold giant trout, and I don't even know really how they do it because I mean they're clearly just very healthy streams, and there's a ton of structure in there for them to hang out and thrive in. But I plan on hanging out in that area a little bit more. Each of those tributaries are going to work a little bit different. Some are going to
mhm,
be flooded. Some are going to have irrigation ditches connected to them. And if so, I want to be able to pivot to moving my clients to a different tributary that has clean water. It's not, moving super fast, and the fishing is good because those fish are coming out of Blue Mesa to
mhm,
hang out in the river a little bit. So that's kind of where my focus is in Colorado next year. In Wyoming, I've just hired some wonderful gals in the Casper area. So we're looking to get a permit so they can do some women's fly fishing retreats out there and show gals in Wyoming how to learn to fly fish anywhere they want. Because what we found in Wyoming is in Colorado, lots of women are invited to fly fish. It's very popular here.
mhm.
Wyoming, maybe not so much. There seems to be a big difference in the fly fishing guides here in Colorado, which are a little bit more open minded, to like the Wyoming cowboys. So
Yeah.
we've profited off of it. I'm not gonna lie, we've done great working in Wyoming.
Yeah.
So I they really want to work in like the Tin Sleep area, which I haven't been to before, but it's
I've
got
heard it's beautiful.
yeah, I
Yeah.
the snow melt, that melt turns into beautiful high alpine streams and lakes that women can adventure around in and fish a lake and a stream in the same day and see how different it is. Really hoping Wyoming gets as much snow, but maybe not as cold this year because we do need some of those big game animals to stick around.
Yeah, it was definitely I we had a place in Steamboat this past winter and this spring, just seeing the amount of wildlife that had
Hmm.
struggled to survive through the winter. So, yeah, there's like this happy medium that Mother Nature needs to figure out.
Yep.
But yeah, and if you guys want to reference that, we've had a couple different podcasts about what you can do as a private landowner to help with wildlife too, big game. But I do love what you're saying about, accessibility of kind of these areas you're choosing, picking these areas that aren't, the most traversed, but giving women the ability to, access these places, but not have to pay $10,000s of dollars to do it. You know, it's all there. You just have to know where to go.
Yeah, I mean, half of the West is public land, right?
Hmm.
Um, so if they just decide on a Monday afternoon that they need to get the kids out of the house and take them fly fishing, there's state parks right there. They don't
Hmm.
have to go hire a fly fishing guide or any fishing guide. They can just have the gear that they know that they need, not the gear that the companies want to sell you, and they can take their kids out and maybe catch some dinner.
Hmm.
Um, Fly fishing doesn't have to be all catch and release. You can take some things home in designated areas. I'm really hoping that our classes open up the minds of fly fisher people because we do keep fish. Like on our retreats, like we're doing a cast and blast retreat this weekend. I'm hoping we catch fish and have them for dinner. We've gotten so far away from that, and just like we're convenience store cowboys at this point.
Right.
So knowing, like teaching the women where their food comes from, and having the objective, like we're not eating meat unless we catch it on this camping trip, it
Love
changes the game. It definitely changes the game. It
Yeah,
seems
when you
like
need to.
it seems like fly fishing is all about catch and release, and then the community, which is a very small, tight knit fly fishing community, right? Compared to spin fishing and conventional fishing that we all grew up with.
Right.
It becomes like these haters, and women are just like over it. We're over it. We see the rules and regulations. You can keep fish. Colorado Parks and Wildlife stocks 450 ponds, streams, and rivers. Like they're going to keep doing that. And the more women that buy licenses year after year, they'll have more money to continue to keep stocking fish.
Mhm.
So hopefully we change that too. It's like, okay, sir, I understand you are a very like in this box fly fishing person, but we're going to go this other direction because it's conservation, and we're going to keep this fish.
Oh, I love that. And not to like stray, but what is a cast and blast for those people listening?
Yeah, a cast and blast is my favorite season. It's where you set a duck spread in the morning to get some ducks, and then once that slows down, you're already on the water, so you might as well pull out some fishing rods and go fishing.
I love that. I
That's
heard
my
that from one of our
favorite.
brokers once, and I was like, that is my kind of sport.
Yeah, it's a
Cast
lot
and
of
blast.
fun.
And that happens in the fall, it sounds like. That's the
Early
time.
season.
Amazing.
Yeah,
And before I let you go, because I appreciate you taking the time to come on today and talk about kind of what to be aware of and all these things. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or plug for your company, Uncharted Outdoors Women?
sure. You can follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook. I am not doing TikTok. I can't. It's just too much.
It's too much.
We employ almost 30 fly fishing and big game hunting guides. We are actively hiring in Oregon, Wyoming, Montana, and Colorado, and things are out of control in a great way. So follow us on social media, Uncharted Outdoors Women, and I also own Colorado Women on the Fly. If you're already following that, I know it's got a big following that I kind of lose track of. Um, all of our information is on our website that my wonderful husband of 15 years has created for me. And we have no idea where this, I never thought it would be this big. So
Yeah.
we'll see where we're going, but we're pretty focused in those 4 states for now.
Well, it just shows there's a need and there's a desire for from these women who have never had an outlet like this, and you're giving them this opportunity. And I'll tell you, we did an avalanche course. I know it's completely, but and it was all women. And I will say I didn't feel like I was being pressured to like compete against anyone. I was just going at the pace and the strength that I have, and I felt even more empowered by doing that. Like women just like, I don't know. I'm all about it. So
It's hard to explain. Like
it is.
our mindset is hard to explain. It's just different.
It is. And I am telling you now, I don't know if it'll be a cast and blast, but I'm gonna get some girls together. That mushroom hunting sounds super up our alley.
Mhm.
So I'll be reaching out to you. But thank you again, Erin, for taking the time to be on the Land Bulletin. This was super helpful. And we hope to have you on again soon. So thanks so
Thank you
much.
so much, Haley.
See ya. And if you want to learn more, as Erin said, about the services provided by Uncharted Outdoors Women, please be sure to check out their website at www.unchartedoutdoorswomen.com. And if you want to learn more about the ranch real estate or ranch marketing process, please be sure to subscribe to our newsletter on our website at www.merranchgroup.com or give us a call at 303-623-4545. Thanks so much. See you next time.